If you're the smartest person in the room, you need to get to another room.
Mhm.
I
Mm.
teach my children that and I figure out what they're good at and then I let them take off. Devin learned how to create movies when we were sitting in Vegas and maybe he was 5 or 6 years old and he just jumped onto iMovie and started making these little like 30-second, 1 minute videos. And I said, "Oh my, that's awesome, kid. Could you make some of those for my business?" And we worked out an agreement that somebody drives out and gets pictures of all the houses we have in the apartment buildings, and he
Huh.
makes YouTube videos to advertise our rentals. But I never knew that was. We're just sitting around in a timeshare in Vegas, taking a week off playing, and he's in the living room one day and walked in and said, "Hey, Dad, look what I did." But it is
Wow.
amazing how creative these kids can be. Uh, and it starts with necessity, just like everything. Why did you hire this? Because I knew it was right and I needed it. But really, why did you hire the first person you ever hired? Probably because you needed to. You just didn't have enough time. You
Mhm.
couldn't make a deadline. You knew you were going to fail without them.
Mhm.
And there's so many people that can't trust. They know they can do it better. And they're doomed to run a self employed business, which means they bought themselves a job for the rest of their life.
Mm.
So the first time you're forced to let go in order to make a deadline or whatever.
Mhm.
I know one of my
Fascinating.
well, actually both of my kids do my reconciliation, a lot of book work for me. But it started with the first one. Devin
Okay.
walks in and says, "Dad, I want to do this. I want to help. What can I do?" And he really just wants to play. It's not like I want to, run your business because
Mhm.
he's 3 or 4. Said,
Yeah.
"Remember that game we play memory?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Well,
Mhm.
it's just like memory." And I'm sitting here in this home office, and I said, "Look, see this piece of paper?" And I pull up the paper from my bank statement. Said, "Look on the computer in QuickBooks. All you got to do is find the numbers, and when you find the number, you put a little click beside it, just like memory. And if the
Huh.
bottom right number turns to a zero, you win." And so he reconciled my bank account for the first time, and I got him a bowl of ice cream for a reward.
Oh, man.
But that's we have
Classic.
we've
Awesome.
homeschooled our children since they were born. I didn't even know there was a thing such as a curriculum. We just made it up as we went. We thought, okay, they should learn math. And what is your every parent's biggest problem, every business owner's biggest problem with the school system should be they tell my child to sit down, be quiet, and don't cheat. When have
Okay.
you ever gotten anything good out of your life by sitting down, being quiet, going with the flow, and not working with others? It seems like everything in my business.
Hmm.
I need an accountant, don't I? Then why are you
Yes.
telling him not to cheat? Why don't you tell him find the smartest person in this room and tell him if you can help me do my history, I'll help you do your math.
Thank you. I've been thinking this way for years, and you're bringing it out. Please continue. By the way, everything you're sharing right now, I think, is a great way to lead people to find the strengths of everyone in the room, not make everyone the same automaton. So, help me understand some more of this thought on the education. We kind of briefly talked on this in our first call some time ago, and I love what you're sharing, and I'm fully on board with helping people play to their strengths for the good of the team. So, help me understand more. This is good stuff.
I tell people all the time that if what question me, in fact, that's the biggest thing, question everything. And what the public schools or private schools, no matter how good they are teaching, it's just not good. 75% of the people, there's 4 different ways to learn. So the school system is fantastic for about a quarter of the people out there.
Okay.
But Ethan, my youngest, is just terrible at sitting still. He needs to have something in his hands. How many of your listeners would rather be doing? How much can you read in a book? I love to read books. All right, my whole family writes books. We read a lot.
Hmm.
And yet you still don't understand what you read until you put it into practice.
Mm,
It's one thing to
yes.
read it, and a lot of people can read and memorize. My wife's awesome at that. And in
Mhm.
college, she'd read and memorize, but she didn't know how to apply anything.
Mm.
And I got out there and it just drove her nuts because I didn't understand it. I wasn't as good at it, but I could immediately apply it to 10 other things in my life. So some people would
Man,
say book smart versus street smart. You can't have one without the other. You have to
mm.
find a way to integrate them. You have to make them work together.
You're hitting some light bulbs are going off, hitting a real nerve here. I remember that when I was in college, I got a summer job selling Cutco knives, and I went out
Mhm.
that first training class, and the leader said, "I'll give you $20 if you can memorize the closing." So memorizing in books and stuff, that's really easy for me. So of course I memorized that. Went out there, did my first 13 demos, and went 0 for 13, no sales. Came back to the office. They told me, go on field training, watch someone else do it. And then I watched a real feeler, real people person go out and not sell anything, but it connected with me that, whoa, it's not just that I can regurgitate all of these wonderful features and benefits and all of the script. I've got to be able to read people. I had no idea how to do that. So I believe what you're sharing completely. That there's book smart, there's street smart, people smart, and I don't know if we're fully equipped to be well trained in both by what we do out there. That's not a slight on the system saying that it's completely broken and wrong, because those who are resilient and figure out how to adapt once they're through it or when they're in it, kudos to those. And I've figured that out. But I'm with you on where you're going. There is a better way.
Why don't you, rather than give them all the information that they
Hmm.
need, which let's
Hmm.
say that the school system really does give you everything you need,
Okay.
and then hope that they can adapt when they get out. Why don't we start teaching them to adapt the entire time they're there? If you talk to my 12-year-old, he will tell you the three things you need to do to become a billionaire are find out what people want, go out and get it, and give it to them at a profit. And you have to do it in that order.
Hmm.
So you were taught to memorize. Pretend
Hmm.
like I am the best person in my sales organization, or whoever's listening, you are the best person in your sales organization. There is absolutely no script that you can write down that will be perfect in every circumstance. True?
Hmm.
You
True.
absolutely have to find out more about the person. You have
Mm.
to figure out what they want. You can't just try and sell them what you have. So if I have Cutco knives, my brother was you. He sold the Cutco knives when he was, getting out of high school and college.
Mhm.
And I love Cutco knives. I think they're fantastic. But you can't walk up to somebody that eats McDonald's every day and say, you can't live without these knives. You have to
Fair.
find your target audience, and then you have to find out. Maybe, even though you can eat a burger with your hand, if you like to split it with your spouse or your cut up your children's or whatever, maybe you do
Mhm.
need a Cutco knife. Don't sell them a steak knife. Let them
Mhm.
know how the larger knife, whatever that's called, can benefit them, and then give them the opportunity to improve their life by buying your product.
I love your thoughts on education, the practicality of let's help them do rather than everyone same thing, sit and listen. So I love the practical, and this is you living it in real life, where your sons are very engaged in their own strengths in your business, and uh, they love it, and they're successful at it before they even go. If they even go to college, they're 16 years and younger, and and
True.
and they've seen this for years, and they've learned.
And don't think I believe the educational system needs a major reform. And my
Mm.
Devin, one of my kids, started at Kent State University when he was 12 years old. So
Mm.
that was exciting, driving him to class and dropping him off there when he was so small compared to everybody else. He came home from his first day of school. I said, and realized he has never ever been to school before. He has
Okay.
been 100% homeschooled, so he's never
Okay.
been in a traditional classroom. He has been at the National Real Estate Convention, New Orleans Investment Conference, Rebel Capitalist, you name it, the investment seminar. he has probably been there since he was
Oh,
7 years old, bouncing all these. But to go and sit for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, that's never happened.
mm,
So he's just taking one class, a physics class in college.
mhm.
Said, "Did you see anything different between you and the other kids there?" I said, "Yeah, they were all playing on their phones the whole time until the teacher came in." And that was his big takeaway. Not they're a lot older than me or they can drive or, they've been in college for a year or so. It was,
Okay.
boy, they spent a lot of time playing on their phones.
Hmm.
But we
Interesting.
don't we don't do phones. People worry that my child, oh, well, they both wrote books and they do all this, but are they real kids? I'm telling you, the 12-year-old gets out and he rides his four-wheeler like a maniac. And they are playing. We were out playing in the orchard all day yesterday, and by playing, I mean raking and blowing leaves and getting stuff ready and cleaning out the fire pit and the greenhouse and everything else. But yeah, they get out and they work on the farm and the orchard and they play with their friends. And Ethan is very into driving things. He's a heck of a pilot. At 12 years old, he almost landed my airplane for the first time a couple of weeks ago.
Wow.
But he got us down on short final. We were about 100 foot up, but he is just barely able to see over the dashboard now. So another inch or two, and he'll be landing the thing, and he can already take off and fly and get me anywhere. And he holds that plane steadier without an autopilot than I do most of the time.
Mm.
So
Wow. Just
yes,
amazing
they
to
get
hear
out
the
and they do fun things and they do abnormal things and they do normal things. They also, well, I guess this is the first year they didn't do a lot of Magic Quest, but we have a conference at the Great Wolf Lodge. So they've got
mm.
their magic wands and they play the games with all the other kids.